Have you ever noticed that the loudest battles are the ones that happen in silence? That even when the world around you is quiet, your mind keeps fighting, replaying conversations, predicting problems, judging every move you make. You wake up with tension, go to sleep with noise, and in between, you try to hold it together. You tell yourself that peace will come once things calm down, once life becomes easier, once people treat you better, once success finally finds you. But it never does it? Because the world doesn't get quieter. You do. We've been conditioned to believe that peace is a reward that comes after control, after we fix everything and everyone around us. But the Stoics knew something the modern world forgot. Peace is not something you chase, it's something you train. It's a discipline, not a destination. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire in constant chaos, wars, betrayal, disease, and yet he wrote that the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Imagine that. An emperor who had every reason to be consumed by noise, choosing instead to rule his mind before he ruled men. The truth is, peace has nothing to do with how still the world is. It has everything to do with how still you are. You can be surrounded by noise and still feel calm inside. You can lose everything and still feel centered. The Stoics learned to carry stillness wherever they went, like a flame sheltered within their hands, protected from the wind, glowing quietly, untouched. That's what true inner peace is. It's not the absence of struggle, it's the ability to remain grounded through it. But here's where most people get it wrong. They try to silence their mind by force. They run from discomfort, distract themselves from pain, and chase pleasure to avoid stillness. Yet every time they do, they drift further from peace. The Stoic path is the opposite. It's about turning inward, facing the chaos, and mastering it. It's about realizing that the storm will never stop, but your reaction to it can. When you control your inner world, the outer world loses its grip on you. That's why in this video, we'll uncover 7 Stoic secrets that reveal the art of true peace, the kind that doesn't depend on circumstance, opinion, or validation. These are the same timeless lessons that carried warriors through war, emperors through crisis, and philosophers through exile. Each secret is a key, a tool to unlock a different part of yourself, until what once overwhelmed you becomes what strengthens you. Because the Stoic doesn't wait for peace to arrive, he becomes it. Now, let's begin. Your mind is the first battlefield, and if you don't master it, you'll lose every other one. The Stoics taught that peace doesn't begin when life gets easier. It begins when the mind learns to stop fighting itself. Most of our suffering isn't caused by events, but by our interpretation of them, by the stories we tell ourselves over and over. Something happens, and instantly the mind begins to spin. Why did they say that? What if it goes wrong? What if I'm not enough? These thoughts, left unchecked, turn ordinary moments into chaos. They whisper fear where there's only uncertainty, shame where there's only growth. Epictetus said it perfectly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. What he meant is that the world is neutral. It's your thoughts that give it color. If you see rejection as humiliation, it becomes pain. But if you see it as redirection, it becomes wisdom. The same event, different story. You are the narrator, and the narrative you choose will either enslave you or set you free. When you control your inner dialogue, you stop being the victim of your emotions and become the author of your peace. Think of your thoughts like wild horses. If you let them run free, they'll drag you through every dark corner of your imagination. But if you learn to hold the reins, to observe them without judgment, you'll begin to steer your mind instead of being thrown by it. This is what Marcus Aurelius practiced daily in meditations. He would write to himself, not to the world, as a way to discipline his mind. He turned his inner noise into clarity, his emotion into philosophy. He knew that the mind left untrained becomes the enemy within. Most people try to quiet the mind by numbing it, through entertainment, consumption, or constant distraction. But that's not peace, that's avoidance. The Stoic path teaches the opposite. Sit with your thoughts, watch them without reacting, and ask, is this helping me or hurting me? Once you begin to see your thoughts as tools rather than truths, the noise starts to fade. You realize that you can choose which thoughts deserve your attention. That simple realization changes everything. Your peace begins the moment you stop believing every thought you have. Because not every thought is true. Some are echoes of old pain, old conditioning, old fear. The Stoic learns to see these thoughts rise and fall like waves, never resisting them, never attaching to them, just watching. And with that watching comes awareness. With awareness comes power. So remember this, the most powerful weapon you have is your attention. Whatever you give it to, grows. If you feed fear, fear thrives. If you feed discipline, peace takes root. Control your inner dialogue, and the external world loses control over you. Now, once you learn to master your thoughts, the next step is learning to make peace with what you can't control. Because the second Stoic secret is one of the hardest to live by, and one of the most freeing to understand. Every day we wake up with an unspoken expectation that life will go our way, that people will be kind, plans will unfold perfectly, and the world will stay balanced just long enough for us to feel safe. But the Stoics saw this as the greatest illusion, the root of human misery. Because the moment life does what life always does, changes, we crumble. We label change as betrayal, we call inconvenience unfair, and we suffer because reality didn't obey our fantasy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it." The Stoic learns to expect the uncontrollable. He accepts that things will break, people will disappoint, and plans will fall apart. And because he expects it, he remains unshaken when it happens. Imagine walking through a storm. Most people curse the rain, shield their faces, and run for cover. But the Stoic keeps walking. Not because he enjoys the storm, but because he knows he can't stop it. Complaining doesn't change the weather, it only drains your energy. In the same way, every moment you spend resisting reality is energy lost. The Stoic instead adapts. He reminds himself that what happens outside him is neutral. It's his reaction that defines it. The world can throw chaos at you, but it cannot decide who you will be in response. Epictetus taught this in his most famous line, "Some things are up to us, and some are not." That's it. The entire formula for peace. There are things within your control, your thoughts, your actions, your choices, and everything else is not. The moment you divide your world into those two categories, life becomes simple again. Not easy, but simple. You stop trying to control people, outcomes, or time. You focus instead on mastering your attitude, your response, your discipline. That's where your true power lies. The Stoic doesn't deny emotion, he disciplines it. He feels disappointment, loss, and frustration just like anyone else, but he never lets those feelings dictate his behavior. He practices what Seneca called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of misfortune. Each morning, he imagines what could go wrong, not to live in fear, but to strengthen his calm. If he loses something, he's already prepared. If someone betrays him, he's already accepted that humans are flawed. By expecting imperfection, he moves through life unshaken by it. Peace begins when you stop demanding that life be fair. It never was. The Stoics understood that the world owes you nothing, but you owe yourself your composure. So when things fall apart, you no longer ask, "Why me?" You ask, "How can I face this wisely?" And in that single question lies the difference between a man enslaved by chaos and a man who commands his inner peace. Because when you expect the uncontrollable, you stop being surprised by change and you start becoming stronger through it. Now, once you've accepted that not everything is yours to command, the next step is learning to want less, and in doing so, gain everything. The modern world teaches us to want endlessly. More money, more validation, more attention, more success. We scroll through other people's lives, quietly comparing, quietly hungering for something we can't name. But the Stoics saw this trap centuries ago. They warned that the more you want, the less peace you'll ever have. Because every desire you chase becomes a chain that ties your happiness to something outside yourself. And anything the world gives, the world can take away. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." To desire less is not to live without ambition, it's to free yourself from dependence. The Stoic doesn't kill his dreams, he purifies them. He asks, what is truly necessary? What is truly within my control? He doesn't measure life by what he acquires, but by what he can live without and still remain content. The man who can find joy with nothing is untouchable, because the world has no leverage over him. Desire is a silent thief. It steals your present by convincing you that peace exists somewhere in the future, after you get what you want. You tell yourself, "I'll be happy when," but when never comes. Because the moment you reach one goal, your mind finds another to chase. The Stoic flips this pattern. He learns to find beauty in simplicity. He trains himself to enjoy what's already here. His breath, his body, his mind, the small pleasures that don't depend on fortune. Marcus Aurelius said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." When you desire less, you begin to see how much you already have. You stop rushing, you stop comparing, you stop envying what others possess, because you finally understand what they have isn't what you need. Desire breeds anxiety. Contentment breeds peace. The Stoic practices gratitude not as a trend, but as armor. Each night he reminds himself of what went well, what he learned, and what he still has. That simple act shifts the mind from lack to abundance. Minimalism to the Stoics wasn't about owning fewer things. It was about being owned by fewer emotions. They knew that freedom doesn't come from adding, but from subtracting. Every time you say nope to a distraction, an impulse, a needless craving, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You become lighter, calmer, clearer. And in that stillness, you start living, not just existing. When you desire less, you stop moving like a beggar through life and start walking like a king. You no longer seek peace, you radiate it. Because peace doesn't come from adding things to your life. It comes from realizing nothing was missing in the first place. Now that we've learned how to silence the craving mind, the next secret takes us even deeper, into the heart of acceptance itself. Because once you stop demanding more, you must learn to accept what is already here. Peace begins where resistance ends. The Stoics taught that most human suffering doesn't come from what happens. It comes from our refusal to accept it. We spend so much of our lives arguing with reality, saying, "This shouldn't have happened," or "Why me?" But nature doesn't hear complaints, it only moves forward. The Stoic learns to move with it, to accept the present moment not as something to fight, but as something to work with. Marcus Aurelius said, "Love only what happens to you and is spun with your thread." Meaning, life isn't happening to you, it's happening for you, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner peace returns. Acceptance doesn't mean weakness or surrender. It's the ultimate strength. It's looking at life exactly as it is and saying, "This is where I am. Now, how can I make it good?" The Stoic doesn't waste time wishing things were different. He uses what is to grow. If it rains, he trains in the rain. If he loses, he learns. If someone betrays him, he observes and adapts. Every obstacle becomes a lesson in disguise. As Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. When you accept the moment fully, you turn pain into purpose, loss into wisdom, and chaos into clarity." Think about how much energy you waste resisting life, replaying the past, worrying about the future, or wishing today was something else. The Stoic saves that energy and puts it toward what can be done now. This is the heart of tranquility, to flow with the river of time rather than trying to swim upstream. When you stop labeling every experience as good or bad, you begin to see things for what they are, neutral events, waiting for your interpretation. Acceptance turns every moment into an opportunity for mastery. The world isn't meant to bend for your comfort. It exists to shape your strength. The Stoic doesn't pray for an easy life. He prays for the endurance to meet life as it is. And that's the paradox of acceptance. The moment you stop fighting what's happening, you gain the freedom to change it. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop fearing the flow and start guiding it. Peace isn't found in controlling reality. It's found in aligning with it. Every time you resist the moment, you suffer twice, once for the event itself, and again for wishing it were otherwise. Acceptance ends that second suffering. It doesn't erase pain, but it removes the panic around it. And in that stillness, peace emerges naturally. Once you've learned to accept life as it comes, the next step is to sharpen your soul, to seek growth through challenge instead of avoiding it. Because the Stoic doesn't only survive discomfort, he invites it. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, "Stay here. Rest. You've done enough." And before you know it, comfort becomes a cage disguised as peace. But the Stoics knew that too much comfort weakens the spirit. They taught that true peace isn't built in softness, it's built in the forge of challenge. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself, 'Is this the condition that I feared?' Why? Because by willingly stepping into discomfort, you strip fear of its power. The Stoic doesn't chase pain, he uses it. He sleeps on a hard bed sometimes to remind himself he can. He fasts to learn that hunger won't kill him. He trains his mind to stay calm when plans collapse. These small acts aren't punishment, they're preparation. Every voluntary hardship makes involuntary ones easier. Each time you choose discipline over indulgence, you teach your body and mind that you are the master, not the servant. Think about it. Modern life is built to eliminate discomfort. Everything is designed to be easy, instant, and safe. But easy doesn't make you peaceful. It makes you fragile. You can't build resilience in luxury. Peace doesn't come from avoiding chaos. It comes from knowing you can endure it. When you practice voluntary discomfort, you become adaptable. You stop fearing uncertainty because you've already trained for it. When the storm comes, you've already stood in the rain. The Stoic uses discomfort as medicine. He understands that the body grows through tension, the mind through struggle, and the soul through restraint. It's not about torturing yourself, it's about reclaiming control over your impulses. Each time you say nope to what weakens you, you strengthen your will. Each time you face fear intentionally, it loses its bite. Comfort numbs the warrior, discomfort sharpens him. When you can endure a little cold, a little hunger, a little silence. You stop being ruled by craving. You stop seeking peace in pleasure and start finding it in power. You learn that your limits were mostly mental, and that freedom comes from being able to live well with less. The Stoic man walks calmly through challenge not because he enjoys suffering, but because he's trained for it. He has walked the hard path by choice, so when life forces it upon him, it feels familiar. That is the essence of mental strength. To face difficulty not with fear, but with readiness. Once you begin to master the art of discomfort, another Stoic truth unfolds. Not every battle deserves your energy. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in silence. There's a rare kind of strength that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, and doesn't seek to prove. It simply observes. The Stoics called it self-command, and it's one of the purest forms of power a person can possess. In a world where everyone reacts instantly, the one who stays silent becomes the master. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never a need to get worked up or to trouble your soul." That single line contains the secret to emotional freedom. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to explain yourself, defend your worth, or correct every insult. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's emotional discipline turned into art. When something angers you, the world expects reaction. It wants your energy, your emotion, your peace. Every time you react in haste, you hand over power to the very thing that disturbed you. But silence reverses the dynamic. It disarms chaos. It confuses those who thrive on conflict. Silence is the Stoic's shield, calm, deliberate, and impenetrable. It says, "You can try to provoke me, but you cannot touch me." And in that restraint lies unmatched strength. Epictetus taught, "If someone speaks badly of you, do not defend yourself, but reply, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned only these.'" That's not arrogance, that's detachment. The Stoic learns that arguments rarely change minds, they only waste energy. He conserves his focus for what matters, his actions, his integrity, his peace. The more you practice silence, the more you realize how much noise you used to carry. You don't need to prove you're calm, you live it. Silence gives you space to see clearly. When you pause before reacting, you step outside your emotions and into awareness. You can analyze the situation, the intent, and the truth without being hijacked by impulse. Most people are slaves to their emotions. The Stoic is the ruler of his. He doesn't suppress his feelings. He simply chooses when, how, and whether to express them. True peace comes not from avoiding conflict, but from refusing to be consumed by it. You'll find that when you stop reacting to every disturbance, life begins to feel lighter. The world still tests you, but your response no longer depends on it. The Stoic understands that composure is contagious. Your calm becomes a mirror that unsettles chaos itself. Silence, when practiced with purpose, becomes a declaration of inner authority. It says, "I no longer let the world decide how I feel." And that's when you become truly untouchable. Once you've learned to control your reactions, there's one final truth the Stoics lived by, one that gives perspective to every moment of life, every struggle, every loss. It's the reminder that peace only becomes precious when you understand how fleeting everything truly is. At the core of every Stoic teaching lies one truth most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid: you will die. Not someday in the abstract, but truly. You, the person watching this, will take your last breath, and the world will continue without pause. The Stoics didn't see this as something dark or depressing. They saw it as the key to life itself. Memento Mori, remember that you must die, was not a call to fear death, but to wake up to life. Because when you truly understand that your time is limited, every trivial worry begins to lose its weight. Every petty argument, every fear of judgment, every craving for approval, suddenly they all seem absurd. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. Imagine living with that awareness, not in despair, but in discipline. Death, to the Stoic, is the great purifier. It strips away illusion and reminds you what truly matters. It's the reason Marcus didn't waste time with revenge, why Epictetus, even as a slave, found peace, and why Seneca could write letters about tranquility while awaiting his execution. They knew that death isn't an enemy. It's the reminder that life is borrowed, and every day is a chance to use it well. When you hold Memento Mori in your heart, peace stops being a luxury and becomes a necessity. You stop trying to control every outcome because you realize how temporary all of it is. You stop chasing recognition because you understand how quickly you'll be forgotten. You start to live not for applause, but for alignment. You no longer waste energy on things that don't matter because death is the ultimate filter. It reveals that most of what disturbs us is meaningless in the face of eternity. The Stoic man greets mortality like an old friend. He walks with the awareness that every sunrise is a gift, every meal a ceremony, every breath a prayer. Memento Mori doesn't make him sad, it makes him fearless. Because when you've accepted death, nothing can truly be taken from you. You no longer fear loss, failure, or rejection. You've already made peace with the final truth, that all things end. And in that acceptance lies the purest form of freedom. Remembering death teaches you how to live. It gives urgency to your discipline, depth to your gratitude, and weight to your words. You start to treat time like gold, your relationships like sacred ground, and your peace like a treasure worth protecting. Memento Mori is not about dying, it's about not waiting to live. When you look death in the eye and say, I'm ready, life finally starts to look back and say, now you're free. Now that we've walked through the 7 Stoic secrets, each one a key to stillness, strength, and perspective, it's time to bring them all together. Let's step back, breathe deeply, and see how these lessons form a single, unshakable truth. That peace was never out there. It was within you all along. There's a moment every Stoic comes to, the moment after the striving, after the loss, after the noise. It's not loud, not dramatic, not even noticeable to most people. It's that quiet pause when you finally stop chasing and simply exist. That is the calm before the world, the peace that comes when you realize there's nothing left to prove, nothing left to control, nothing left to fear. You start to understand that peace isn't a destination you find at the end of struggle, it's the awareness you carry through it. All 7 Stoic secrets lead here. When you control your inner dialogue, you silence the storm. When you expect the uncontrollable, you stop being surprised by life. When you desire less, you free your mind from chains. When you accept the moment, you stop suffering twice. When you embrace discomfort, you forge strength. When you choose silence, you protect your power. And when you remember death, you finally learn how to live. Together, these principles don't just create peace, they return you to it. Because peace was never gone, it was just buried beneath noise, ego, and fear. Imagine walking through life with that kind of calm. Someone insults you, you smile. Plans fall apart, you adapt. The future becomes uncertain, you breathe. You no longer move from panic, but from purpose. You understand that the universe is not against you, it's simply unfolding, and your role is to meet it with grace. That's the true Stoic mastery, not detachment from life, but harmony with it. The calm before the world is the point where nothing outside can disturb what's been built inside. You no longer depend on validation, affection, or success to feel whole. You can walk alone and feel complete, stand in silence and feel powerful, lose everything and remain yourself. That's when you've become unshakable, not because you control everything, but because you need to control nothing. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel. Epictetus called it freedom of the soul. But you can call it what it truly feels like, home, because when your mind is calm, the whole world feels like home. Now, let's bring this all to a close. The final reflection on what it truly means to live and breathe as a Stoic in the modern world. There comes a point in every man's journey where he stops running from pain, from noise, from himself, and simply stands still. That moment is where transformation begins. The Stoics called it ataraxia, a state of unshakable tranquility. It isn't flashy or loud. It's quiet, steady, grounded. It's the kind of peace that doesn't depend on the world being calm because it lives inside you, untouched by circumstance. This is the peace of the Stoic soldier, the man who has faced himself fully, lost everything that wasn't real, and gained everything that cannot be taken. When you live by Stoic principles, you stop being tossed by emotion like a leaf in the wind. You become the mountain. Life can roar around you, but you stay anchored. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead you ask, "What can this teach me?" You stop being a prisoner of expectation and become a student of existence. That's what Stoicism truly is. Not an escape from life, but a deeper participation in it. You walk through the world not as a victim of its storms, but as the calm at their center. The Stoic soldier isn't emotionless. He feels everything, but he chooses how to respond. He knows that anger fades, pain transforms, and peace is something you must practice every single day. He understands that mastery of the self is the only true victory worth winning. Every hardship is training, every loss a lesson, every silence a sanctuary. He carries himself with quiet confidence, not because he's better than anyone, but because he no longer competes with anyone. His only battle is within, and he's learned to fight it gently. So if you've listened this far, remember, inner peace isn't something you find, it's something you remember. It's been there since the beginning, waiting beneath the noise of the world. The Stoic path doesn't promise comfort, it promises clarity. It asks you to walk alone for a while, to sit in silence, to let go of everything that isn't you. And in doing so, you'll find something far greater than happiness. You'll find serenity, the kind that doesn't fade when life changes, because it doesn't come from life at all. It comes from within. So breathe deeply, stand tall, and carry this truth wherever you go. You don't need the world to be calm. You just need to be. If this message spoke to you, like, subscribe, and join the Stoic soldiers, a brotherhood of men walking the path of discipline, strength, and inner stillness. Thank you for watching, my friend. Stay grounded, stay silent, stay strong, and remember, peace was never missing. You just had to remember where to look.